Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Humans were myths until their armada darkened the stars. No one believed in humans anymore. Not really. They were just stories told in hushed tones, myths from the days when the stars were still wild and uncharted. The young ones laughed them off. Tales of creatures so stubborn, so violent, and so wildly unpredictable that the galaxy itself was said to have pushed them out, erasing their existence like a bad memory. The elders, though, never laughed. They rarely spoke of humans, but when they did, there was always a pause in their voice, a flicker in their eyes as if they remembered something they'd rather forget. Among the Azari people, the story of humans was like a bedtime ghost tale. "Don't lie or the humans will come back," they would say to naughty children. "Don't cheat the trade markets or you'll end up like the Var Dominion." The humans didn't spare them either. But that was all it was, a folk tale, until the silence broke. It started with a signal. A weak transmission picked up on the outer rim of Sector X-12, close to what was known as the dead space. The transmission repeated one phrase over and over. "This is Earth Command. We are returning." Most brushed it off as static, a prank maybe, or a leftover automated probe from a forgotten war. But the Zarn Intelligence Collective picked it up and did not like what they heard. Machines don't fear stories unless they come with data, and this signal carried metadata that didn't make sense. The code embedded in it was human, or at least something terrifyingly close. So the collective sent scouts, then battle cruisers, then an entire drone fleet. None of them came back. That was when things got serious. The Galactic Accord met in an emergency session, the first time in over 6,000 cycles. Every species showed up, even those who hadn't left their home worlds in centuries. They debated, they denied, they panicked, and then the warships arrived. They didn't look like anything the galaxy had ever seen. No curved elegance, no polished chrome, no unnecessary design. Just dark, massive monsters with engine trails that burned like dying suns and hulls that looked like they'd been carved from black stone. No insignias, no greetings, no demands. They didn't need to speak. One by one, orbital defenses fell silent, precise, not just destroyed. Fleets, humiliated, blinked out of the stars without ever getting a lock. AI cores went dark. Fleets surrendered before even seeing the enemy. Rumors spread like fire. "They don't use shields, they are shields. They upload viruses through quantum space. They took down a worm gate without firing a shot." By the time the ships reached the capital world of Velmora Prime, the galaxy wasn't laughing anymore. Then came the message. One broadcast in every language, every code, every neural interface and auditory channel across the stars. It said, "You erased us, you hunted us. You wrote our extinction into your history books. We were myths to you, now we are memory. We are back and we do not forget." Panic turned into terror, but amidst the chaos, some remembered. The old Azari priestess, eyes clouded with age, whispered to no one in particular, warning, "The humans don't come to talk, they come to finish." Far away, on a mining station orbiting the ice planet Tyrix, a young mechanic named Rez stared out the viewport. His hands trembled as dozens of black silhouettes cut across the stars like blades. He had grown up thinking humans were just a joke. Now he couldn't stop shaking. The silence after that message was worse than the destruction. Mora Prime stood still. Billions of citizens held their breath, staring at the sky as if waiting for a second sunrise, only this time they knew it wouldn't bring warmth. At first, the human fleet didn't fire. They hovered, watching like predators studying prey. The Accord's top minds scrambled, trying to understand their intentions, but none of their models worked. Humans weren't acting with logic, at least not the kind galactic civilizations understood. "They're waiting for something," said Admiral Karen of the Thrax Dominion. maybe surrender, but others disagreed. The humans didn't come for surrender, they came for something else. High Chancellor Davrax, leader of the Galactic Accord, ordered a message to be sent, diplomatic, respectful, desperate. It began with, "We welcome you back," and ended with, "Let us coexist in peace." The humans didn't answer. Instead, one of their ships broke formation. It moved slowly, deliberately toward the moon of Elmora. That moon held the Accord's War Museum, a place dedicated to past conflicts, including the so-called human cleansing, an event now known to be far less one-sided than records claimed. The ship didn't fire at the moon. It opened a bay door and a single object dropped, no weapon, no bomb, a statue. It landed hard enough to shake seismic sensors across the hemisphere. When drones approached, they saw it clearly, an obsidian figure shaped like a human warrior, armored in old Terran design. At its feet, engraved in flawless, common galactic script, were 6 words: "We bury the lies with fire." That was when the first real wave began. Human drop pods screamed through the atmosphere, not thousands, but millions, black spheres slicing through clouds and landing across military outposts, communication relays, and old battlegrounds. Each pod carried 1 or 2 soldiers, tall, armored, faceless beings behind reflective visors. They didn't speak, they didn't broadcast. They just moved with terrifying precision, knowing the terrain, every bunker, every shield pattern, every emergency protocol, because humans never forgot what was done to them, and they never stopped planning for payback. Admiral Karen launched a counterattack from orbit. Her cruisers opened fire, sending plasma bolts toward the drop pod zones, but nothing hit. The human ships projected some kind of distortion, a black mist that bent light and signals. Her own fleet systems began glitching one by one. The ships turned cold. No explosion, just silence inside. In the Accord war room, panic turned into paralysis. Ministers shouted, generals wept, and Chancellor Davrax stood frozen, watching as his empire unraveled, not through negotiation or siege, but through a methodical dismantling. The worst part was that there were no demands. The humans weren't here for territory, and they weren't here for reparations. They were here to erase the myth, to remind the galaxy that humans were never just your story, you were part of ours. On the mining station above Tyrex, Rez found himself drafted by a force he didn't understand. The humans hadn't touched Tyrex yet, but their ships hung above the planet like executioners waiting for the rope to swing. Rez watched as the local governor tried to send messages to the human ships, no response. Then came a flicker on the screen, a single word, survivors. No one knew what it meant, but Rez felt something in his gut. This wasn't a war of revenge, it was a reckoning. The word survivors didn't make sense at first. It hung on the monitors like a warning written in blood. Cryptic, cold, final, people across the station whispered theories. Maybe the humans were identifying themselves, maybe they were looking for their own kind left behind, or maybe, and this sent chills down Rez's spine, they were searching for collaborators, those who had helped erase them. Tyrex had always been a backwater planet, icy, isolated, only good for mining rare crystals. It wasn't part of the human cleansing wars, at least not directly. But after that message, the governor's face went pale. He locked himself in the control room and refused to speak. Rez watched the broadcast like everyone else. Footage leaked from Velora showed human infantry, silent, fluid, almost like ghosts, moving through cities untouched by fire. They didn't destroy everything, just certain things, statues, libraries, government buildings, especially anything that contained official history. Entire archives were erased, wiped clean, neither hacked nor burned. No trace left, no backups. It was as if the humans were removing the lie at its roots. Back on Tyrex, tension thickened. Ships stopped coming, communications were jammed, the station's upper class started hoarding supplies, armed guards appeared at exits. The miners, people like Rez, were told to keep working, but no one believed in the system anymore. One night, while fixing a damaged coolant line in sublevel 9, Rez stumbled upon an old maintenance panel behind a bulkhead. It hadn't been used in years. Curious, he pried it open and found something strange, a body, or at least what was left of one. Mummified and wrapped in rags, the bones were peculiar, longer limbs, broader shoulders, and a single dog tag hung from its neck. The tag read, J. Navarro, United Terran Front. Rez stumbled back, his heart thudding. He didn't call security, he didn't even tell his co-workers. Something in him screamed to keep quiet. He took the tag and left the body untouched. Later that night in his bunk, he traced the letters with his thumb. How had a human corpse ended up on Tyrix? The next morning, the human ships moved. One ship descended into the lower atmosphere directly above Tyrix Station. No weapons deployed, no troops dropped, just a signal. We are aware. 3 words, and those 3 words shattered whatever illusion remained. The governor tried to flee in his shuttle, but it exploded before it left the hangar. Then came the second broadcast, a recording, years old, buried in a file that shouldn't have existed anymore. In it, the governor, much younger and laughing in a bar on Velora, bragged about cleaning up a crash site, one where some filthy Terran tried to hide. He spoke of burying bodies in Tyrix's tunnels. Rez watched in stunned silence, as did everyone else. Suddenly, Tyrix wasn't innocent. It wasn't a forgotten rock. It was a graveyard, a secret one, and the humans knew. Rez understood what survivors meant now. The humans weren't looking for allies. They were looking for the truth, for those who survived the cleansing, for those who hid, and maybe, just maybe, for those willing to remember. Outside, the human ship hovered unmoving, its black hull gleaming with frost and firelight. Rez stared up through the cracked dome of the station and whispered, "What do you want from us?" The answer didn't come in words that night. Instead, every system on the station shut down, and a figure appeared in sublevel 9, a lone human. He stood there, surrounded by silence, as if the whole world had stopped spinning just to watch. Rez had never seen a human before, not in real life, only in old, distorted images. Tall shadows in dusty archives, faces blurred by time or erased entirely. But this one was real. He wasn't wearing the black armor like the others, just a simple dark coat, worn boots, a utility belt, and something strange on his shoulder, a symbol of 2 broken wings wrapped around a burning star. His face was unreadable, calm, but with a weight behind his eyes, as if he carried 1,000 stories no one wanted to hear. Rez didn't move, he didn't breathe. The human raised a hand, not in threat, but in acknowledgement, maybe even peace. Then he spoke, "You found Navarro." Rez's throat tightened. "The dog tagged the body, how did he?" the human added, glancing at Rez's chest. "You carry it," he said. "We can sense our own." Rez pulled the tag from under his shirt slowly and carefully, as if it might explode. The man took a step forward, his boots scraping against the metal floor. "You weren't supposed to be here," Rez managed to say. "None of us were supposed to be anywhere." The man's voice was low. "Not after what they did." Rez swallowed hard. "Why are you here? I mean, why now?" The human's gaze drifted upward, as if staring through layers of steel and rock all the way to the stars. "Because it's time. The truth rots in shadows. We're here to burn it into the light." Rez's mind raced. Tyrix was nothing forgotten. It didn't matter in the Galactic scheme, but now it was on the map and not in a good way. "They'll fight you," Rez said. "The Accord, they'll send everything they have. They already did." The man replied flatly, "And they lost." Rez's stomach turned. "So what now? You just erase us like they did to you." The man looked at him steadily. "That depends. Were you part of the lie or part of the silence?" Rez didn't have an answer. He didn't even know what it meant. All he knew was that he was a mechanic who found a corpse he shouldn't have, and now he was standing in front of something much bigger than anything he'd ever imagined. The man turned. There are more like you, ones who have seen the cracks, the holes in the stories. We're not here to conquer, we're here to correct. And if that means burning down the systems that kept the lie alive, so be it. Before Rez could respond, the lights flickered, then a siren, a low, moaning tone that hadn't been heard in decades. Unidentified life form breach. Central AI offline. Emergency lockdown initiated. Rez's calm buzzed as voices screamed over the channel. They're inside, not soldiers, civilians. They're opening doors from the inside. Rez looked at the man. What did you do? I didn't do anything, the human said quietly. They did your people, the ones who remembered, the ones who waited. A second figure stepped out from the shadows behind him, a woman shorter with sharper scars down her neck. Her eyes locked onto Rez. He's clean, she said. The man nodded. Then let's show him. Rez followed them, unsure whether it was out of curiosity, fear, or something deeper. They led him through old mining shafts into sealed chambers that no one had entered in years. There, behind layers of rusted doors, lay relics of a denied past, Terran banners, crates of forbidden data, and in the middle an old communications rig blinking softly. The woman touched it gently. We've been waiting a long time, she said, but it's not just about revenge. She turned to Rez. It's about memory. Rez had never seen technology like this before. The room was buried deep below Tyrex's mapped levels, sealed behind bulkheads coated in frost and carbon scoring, like someone had tried to destroy it and then given up. The rig itself looked half dead, barely humming, its wires snaking out like veins into old crystal cores, and yet it still worked. The woman knelt beside the console, her fingers dancing across the dusty interface with practiced ease as she wakened it from its coma. This was Navarro's final transmission point, she said without looking up. The last thing he did before he died was send a signal we think never reached anyone, until now. Rez finally spoke. Why would he come here? Why Tyrex? The man, who still hadn't shared his name, leaned against the wall, arms folded. Because Tyrex was neutral, a blind spot, and because someone here helped him. Rez blinked. Helped him? The woman nodded. Navarro didn't crash here by accident. He was guided, smuggled through mining lanes off the record. Someone in your station risked everything to protect him. We're here to finish what they started. Rez felt as if the air had thinned. None of this made sense. His whole life had been about keeping things running, pipes, lights, machinery. Not uncovering buried history, not standing in forgotten catacombs with the ghosts of a species erased from textbooks. But what are you finishing? He asked, taking a slow step forward. The man finally pushed off the wall. The screen blinked, grainy at first, and then a face appeared, tired, bruised, but unmistakably human. It was Navarro. The recording began. This is Commander J. Navarro, United Terran Front. If this reaches anyone who still believes in what we were, know that I didn't die quietly. They tried to erase us. They told the galaxy we were monsters. Maybe we were, but we were alive, and that matters more than any lie. He coughed, blood staining his lips. If Earth is gone, if no one else made it out, let this recording be proof. We were here, we fought, we bled, and we remember. The screen faded to black. The woman's voice was soft. He died a few hours after that, alone and broken, believing no one would hear him. Rez swallowed hard. It was too much, too fast, too heavy. So you're doing this for him? Rez asked. The man replied, we're doing it for everyone like him. The millions who were hunted, the children who never saw Earth, the soldiers turned into shadows. This isn't justice, it's remembrance. Rez looked down at the dog tag still in his hand. For the first time, it didn't feel like a strange piece of metal. It felt like a weight, a truth. So what happens now? He asked. The woman stood. Now we show the galaxy what they buried. Rez stared at the communications rig. You're going to transmit it to everyone. Every system, every port, even the ones that banned human media. We're going to infect the lie with truth. Rez hesitated. They'll come for you, they already have. The man said, they just don't know we're inside the walls. Outside, alarms began to blare, soft at first, then louder. The humans didn't flinch. The woman looked at Rez, really looked. You don't have to help, but if you do, it means something. What that not everyone forgot? Rez stared at her, then at the rig, then at Navarro's final words still echoing in his mind. He wasn't a soldier, a historian. He was a mechanic who had seen the lie, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. He stepped forward and placed the dog tag on the console. I'll help, he said. A faint smile crossed the man's face, as if he had been waiting for that all along. Then let's wake the stars. They moved quickly after that. The woman, finally, she offered her name, LRA, began routing power from auxiliary cores to boost the old transmitter. Rez watched as she pulled up ancient encryption protocols, bypassing station firewalls as if they were made of paper. She wasn't just a rebel. She was a relic, an architect of digital war. The man, now known as Cade, kept watch near a sealed bulkhead. From his stance, Rez could tell he was used to violence, not the theatrical kind the Accord's enforcers displayed, but the quiet, final kind that left no witnesses. Every part of Rez wanted to panic. The alarms were howling, red lights painted the tunnels like veins on fire. Somewhere above them, soldiers were gathering. Accord forces would be here soon, armed and paranoid. We'll have maybe 5 minutes once the signal launches, LRA said without looking up. The rig's not cloaked. The second it transmits, every surveillance drone in orbit is going to ping its location. Rez cleared his throat. So we're doing this to die. LRA smirked. We're doing this so they don't die again. Cade tossed him a rifle. Rez caught it awkwardly, nearly dropping it. I've never used one of these, he admitted. Cade only nodded. Don't shoot unless you have to, but if you do, aim for center mass. They'll be wearing suppressor armor. Rez's fingers tightened around the cold metal. This wasn't supposed to be his fight. He fixed pipes, cleaned reactors, maintained machinery. He never broadcast forbidden messages or fired at elite security units, and yet here he was. The console beeped 3 times, then a low hum filled the chamber. LRA's eyes lit up. We're online, she said, initiating a full-spectrum burst that would reach every unshielded receiver from here to the Helix barrier. Rez stepped closer as the screen displayed hundreds of symbols, languages from every known species, and a countdown ticked from 60. LRA looked up at him, still Rez nodded. They had once killed the truth, not again, she thought. Then she hit the final command. The rig pulsed, a wave of energy surged out like a scream in the dark. Navarro's recording began to play, and then dozens more, testimonies, footage, photos, archive dumps. Human cities in flames, Accord soldiers laughing over mass graves, internal communications from officials who signed the extinction orders, the ugly, buried core of galactic peace now unburied in orbit. Accord monitors exploded with data they never thought could return. On every trade route on hollow screens, the words finally appeared. We were erased, now we speak. Rez felt it as if a dam had broken inside his chest. The room trembled. Outside, a blast shook the corridor. The Accord is coming, Cade said, sealing the inner hatch. We hold them here, he added calmly. They can't stop it now, but they'll try. Rez took position behind a crate, heart pounding so loud it almost drowned out the chaos. LRA pulled out a compact pistol and took position by the side entrance. Then came the thudding boots, voices, shouts, and then smoke. The door burst open. Rez fired without thinking. For a moment he thought he had missed, but one of the armored soldiers dropped, sparks flying from his chest plate. The firefight erupted, fast and brutal. Rez ducked behind piping as shots tore through the air. Cade moved like a phantom. 2 shots, 2 bodies. LRA shouted something he couldn't hear over the noise as the console sparked. They'd hit something. No, 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 hold it, LRA screamed, diving for the terminal. The relay is still transmitting. Rez saw a soldier raise his rifle toward her. He didn't think he had pulled the trigger. The shot hit and the soldier fell. Rez couldn't breathe. LRA looked at him wide-eyed. You just saved the truth. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt sick, but he nodded. Outside, more footsteps and more enemies. Then above them in the stars, the message flew, carved into every data stream, every broadcast. The humans were never a myth. They were a warning, and now they were a reckoning. The stars trembled with revelation across the galaxy. The message spread like wildfire through the vacuum. Entire networks crashed under the weight of incoming data. Civilian hubs blinked in and out of operation. Military AIs flagged the transmission as Level 9 forbidden content, and yet it reached billions. On V4, a history professor dropped her tablet as images of Terran children in cages flashed across her screen. She had taught for 20 years that humans were savages, uncivilized aggressors, destroyed for the safety of the stars. Now she watched a human mother shielding her baby during a bombardment, an event she had been told never happened. In the capital domes of Satari Prime, protests exploded within hours. Young ones, born after the war, marched with stolen banners showing Earth's crest. They shouted one word in every dialect: lies. In military stations, soldiers hesitated to follow orders. One squad refused to fire on demonstrators. Another broke into their own records room, searching for classified archives, and leaked them. The galaxy had prided itself on order and unity, yet that unity had been built on a graveyard, and now the ghosts were starting to speak back. On Tyrex's station, Rez's body ached. Smoke choked the air in the transmission chamber. LRA crouched by the console, frantically rerouting power as another hit blew half the system offline. Cade had a gash on his side, dark blood soaking into his coat, but he moved as if it didn't exist. Rez's hands were slick with sweat and maybe blood. He couldn't tell anymore. "I think we're surrounded," he said, ducking as a blast ripped a piece of piping from the wall above him. "We were always surrounded," Cade growled. "The difference is now they're afraid." Rez swallowed hard. "Afraid of 3 people in a frozen cave?" "No," LRA muttered, "of the truth being free." She slammed a key, rerouting the last power bank to the transmission relay. Sparks shot up, lighting her face in an orange glow as the final packet launched. The console let out a long beep, transmission complete. "They did it!" LRA collapsed against the wall, exhaustion pulling her limbs down like gravity. Outside the room, the Accord forces went silent. No more shots, no more shouting, just a quiet shuffle as they waited. Then a message came in from space, from the Terran fleet. Cade opened the comm. His face remained unreadable as a woman's voice came through, cold and calm. "Tyreek Station, this is Earth Command. We received the burst. Your actions have ignited over 93,000 subnetworks. Accord censorship is failing. Stand by for retrieval." Rez blinked. "Retrieval, you're sending ships?" LRA asked, sitting up. "Number?" Cade replied, "We already sent them." Just then the ceiling shook. Rez ran to the viewing port, cracked but still intact, and there, piercing through the clouds, came the warships. Not sleek, not quiet, colossal ships shaped like iron bones with ash-burned emblems on their sides. Their engines didn't hum, they growled like thunder as if waking from a long slumber. Accord forces scrambled. They didn't last 3 seconds. The Terran fleet didn't fire first, they simply arrived. And the message was clear. "We are not the hunted anymore, we are the storm." Outside the room, soldiers laid down their weapons one by one. The clatter of metal on the floor resonated. The door slid open slowly, but it wasn't a firing squad. It was a cordon. Soldiers raised their hands, and behind them, more civilians, miners, engineers, people Rez had worked beside for years. None of them looked at him the same way. One of them, an older tech named Baron, stepped forward. His voice trembled as he said, "We thought they were monsters." Rez nodded, "So did I." Baron looked up at the sound of approaching heavy boots, disciplined echoes with the sound of iron justice. Terran Marines entered, black-armored and wordless. They saw Cade and LRA. They saw Rez and simply nodded. Cade stepped forward and said only 2 words, "Truth holds." On Tyreek Station, things had changed. Where once there was fear and silence, now there was stillness, but not the hopeless kind. It was the stillness that came after a storm, when everything broken could finally be seen in the open. Terran Marines moved through the halls like shadows of judgment. They didn't speak, didn't boast, and they didn't touch anything unless necessary. Their presence wasn't to conquer, but to witness. Their armor bore the scars of extinction, but their steps carried purpose. Rez sat on the edge of the sub-level 9 platform, feet dangling over a maintenance ledge. A recovery vessel hovered nearby, Terran, shaped like a knife with folded wings. He still wore his grimy overalls, his hands remained calloused from years of work, and yet something inside him had been carved out and replaced with truth. LRA sat next to him, sipping a sealed ration pack with a crooked grin. "You've got good aim for a mechanic," she remarked. Rez gave her a side glance and replied, "Don't get used to it, I don't like guns." She nodded slowly. "Neither do I, but sometimes you pick one up because no one else will." Below them, survivors from the station were being processed, not imprisoned, not punished, just talked to. Every person was given a choice, testify or walk away. Most chose to talk. Some wept, others simply nodded, broken by the weight of a lie they didn't even know they carried. Rez had already spoken to the Terran officer leading the operation, a woman named Vela. Her voice held the calm of someone who'd lost too much to raise it anymore. She had listened to his account, nodded only once, and said, "You did what billions wouldn't." Rez didn't know how to respond. Cade joined them, his side bandaged and his movements stiff but steady. He sat down on Rez's other side, and for a few moments none of them spoke. The stars above Tyreek were now clearer. The distortion fields were gone, no longer hiding the truth from space. Finally, Rez broke the silence. "What happens next?" Cade stared ahead. "The galaxy fractures." LRA added, "The Accord will call it terrorism. Some planets will riot, others will try to erase us again, but this time they can't kill the message. The truth's out." Cade continued, "And the thing about truth, it spreads faster than fear. Once people realize they've been lied to their whole lives." Rez nodded slowly, "And Earth, it's still there." LRA hesitated.